Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Grief Drums, and today we're going to be covering the brand new season, Operation North Star. So just to give you a very quick rundown of this, the new map that is coming as part of this season is going to be Favelas. This is a casual rework, so it is just undergone, well, it's quite a big overhaul, to be honest. Like, the interior of the map looks pretty much completely different. You're not going to recognize it as it once was. And honestly, the flow of the map feels a hell of a lot better. There are still a lot of windows that have crazy lines of sight, but on the whole, the map is pretty enjoyable. The frustration for me is the fact that I'm not going to get to play it. If you don't play Quick Match or you predominantly play Unranked or Ranked, then you aren't going to be seeing this map, as I don't believe it's going to be added to anything other than the casual playlist. Next, on to the more important things. As part of this season, we are getting a brand new defender called Thunderbird. She is from the Dakota region, basically North America. She's, I believe, a Native American heritage. I'm sure someone in the comments is going to correct me if I've got that completely wrong, but nevertheless, she is essentially a 1-speed 3 armor, although it's not 3 armor anymore, but I'll get to that in a minute. She's a 1-speed 3 armor operator that deploys health stations. Now, what I mean by this is she has 3 gadgets, very similar to sort of Jaeger ADSs in the way that they're deployed, and you put them down, they get a large circle around them, which is an area of effect, and anyone that moves into that area gets a stim shot, basically a dock stim. Now, we didn't get an exact count on how many times this thing can actually shoot out. It does take a little while to reset in between, very similar to the Jaeger ADSs. However, it can shoot out a dart if you're in the area of effect, and we believe it can do this about 20 times per gadget. It looks like there's about 20 little, essentially ping pong balls inside of there. But each one of those is a shot. Now, quite how many you're going to be able to get in the entirety of a round, I don't know. But anybody that walks into this area is going to get stimmed if it has been reset, whether you're a defender or an attacker. Now, this does sort of raise the question that if 2 defenders are stood in the area of effect, who is going to get it? It's going to be the one with the lowest health. It will prioritize the lowest health defender and give them the stim. But this could be used in so many different ways, whether you leave it out for your roamers, whether you put it down in an anchor position where someone is trying to hold down a specific area. It's going to be extremely beneficial. Another way to use it that could be quite interesting, which Dom actually started messing around with, was the idea of putting it down on a floor above potentially and placing a nitro underneath it. And as and when an attacker goes, well, I'm going to use that. As soon as they set it off, you set off the nitro. So you could use it in that way. Maybe a bit of a waste. But then again, if it's up there and your roamer is using it anyway, this is potentially something that you could incorporate. They can be shot. They can be punched out. They're not bulletproof in any way, shape, or form, which is positive. And speaking of bulletproof, we're going to have a little chat about Malusi. Now, Malusi is seeing some changes. Her gadget, at the minute, cannot be taken out other than with explosives or by being physically punched. However, as part of North Star, you're going to be able to shoot it. If you're in the area of effect, the Banshee itself is actually going to open up to start slowing you down and actually doing its job. And when it does that, it's going to open up to do so. So you're going to be able to just shoot it and take it out. This is going to mean that you're going to need to place it in a lot more sneaky places. So as and when they go past it, you can use the audio cue as they turn to take it out or shoot it. Then you're going to be able to jump out and do whatever it is you need to do. Other bulletproof cameras and things that are changing are both Maestro and Mirror. Maestro and Mirror's gadgets are going to be able to be punched. So by doing so, it's going to block the screen entirely. One punch will take out a mirror window. It will completely stop it from being used. Obviously, you can still break the glass and drop the glass down, but it's going to crack the entire thing so that you can't actually look through it. Now, I was quite surprised by this. I kind of thought it would be a couple of punches or alternatively explosives. Like if Ash has a couple of breaching rounds and fires them into it, the first one may have like cracked it and the second one may have like stopped it from being used. That's not the case at all. Explosives don't seem to do anything against it, but punching does. By moving up to it, if you can get close enough, you can punch it and the glass will completely crack. Now, with Maestro, you can open up the turret, and this is going to enable you to see again. You're still going to be able to use the lasers to zap once you open the glass on the turret. So it's definitely pretty interesting. Other operator changes include smoke. He now has a clearer view of the area of the smoke. The way the smoke actually works has been adjusted. It looks different. It sounds different. There's different audio cues. But it basically, you're going to be able to see clearly where the smoke is going to. Previously, you'd stand on the outskirts of it and you'd start getting hurt and you think, well, I'm not stood in the smoke. Now that shouldn't happen as much. They've also changed the way that the damage works. I believe if you're on the outskirts of the smoke, it did less damage than if you were in the center of it. But they've basically explained that there is consistent damage now. And the propagation of the smoke is going to be changing as well, so that it is more like the way the fire works inside of the game. Presently, the smoke actually clips through walls. So with the new version of the smoke, it shouldn't do that, and it should instead funnel through open areas. So potentially if there's an open hole on the wall, it should go through there. But if that hole is not there, then it shouldn't. One for the Hibana mains is there has been a buff to the bearing 9. It's only minimal, but you know what? It is a lot more usable now than it was. It's more in the realms of the SMG 11 than, you know, it previously was, where it sort of zipped off every single direction, and it was just unusable. It was uncontrollable, and this is a lot nicer to use now, definitely. The final operator change is for Rook. Now, before I go into this, I'm going to explain the armor and speed system very, very quickly. So at the minute, the way the armor works inside of the game, it doesn't really make a massive amount of sense. You've got 100 health, but because you're a 1 speed and 3 armor, you suddenly have, or you take less damage than a 3 speed 1 armor. So it's not very clear to anyone that's new to the game or anything like that, or even, you know, seasoned veterans of the game. It doesn't come across clearly. So they've done away with that system, and instead they've introduced the health and speed system. So the way it's going to work is if the operator was a 1 armor, 3 speed, they're now going to have 100 health. If they are a 2-2, they're going to have 110 health. And if they're a 3-1, they're going to have 125 health. So if you are playing as Rook, you are going to start with 125 HP. It's going to be clear. It's going to be visual. You're going to know exactly how much health you've got throughout the round because it's going to be shown the entire time. From there, you can actually go ahead and put Rook armor on, and the Rook armor will give you 20 more health points or hit points. It's not going to change the armor or anything like that. And I haven't been able to test whether you still receive the down but not out. But I kind of think that's unlikely to change. Either way, instead of the armor buff, you are now getting a health buff, which is a nice change, and it's a good quality of life change. Thinker has slightly been adjusted as well. Rather than doing this sort of stim where she gives you a little bit of health and then it disappears, Thinker is now going to be giving you just pure health. It's going to be a lot more similar to a dock stim. However, if you go over and over stim, so if you're at 100 HP and you over stim, then that will start to decline gradually, very similar to the way Docs does. Other changes this season are going to be to the barrel attachments of weapons. Now, this is a really nice and long-awaited change, even if we didn't know that we needed it. But the compensator is now going to be more clearly defined as to what it does. It's going to stop the left and right recoil. So this is perfect for if you run the Scorpion on Ela. There's a lot of horizontal recoil. The compensator is now going to limit and stop that as much as possible. Whereas the flash hider is going to be for up and down vertical recoil. If you want the weapon to recenter faster after you've shot, you want it to come back to exactly where it was, then the muzzle brake is going to be for you. This is more lined up towards people that tap fire potentially, or alternatively DMRs. It's going to be perfect for DMRs, people like Glaz, people that are using single shots and you want it to recenter back from that big recoil burst. Now, after all of these changes, there is still more. However, I want to put a bit of a disclaimer out here. Some of these are nice ideas, but whether they work or not, I'm not 100% sure. But I may cover this properly in another video, and just rather than give you all my thoughts about, you know, what I think of all this stuff here, let's just break down exactly what we're getting. So the death sequence, the way this happens, when you die, this entire sequence has now changed. Rather than going straight to some sort of still shot where you could see whatever was in front of you, however, it was pretty useful for seeing where tracers were coming from to see where you died from. Instead of that, you are now going to get almost a 2-second window where the camera flicks round and shows you exactly what killed you. If you got killed to a turret behind you, it's going to show you that. If you got killed to a smoke on the other side of the wall, it's going to point in that direction so you know it was from there. Inside of this, like, 2-second window, you can actually turn the camera a little bit, which is quite a nice feature. The only difficulty with all of this is the fact that it kind of creates, I don't want to say motion sickness because it's not, but if you're moving fast in one direction and the camera suddenly pans around to the other direction, it can be a little bit jarring. Following that initial death sequence, you then go into the replay mode, and when this occurs, you get a great big logo appear on the screen before going into this, so you know that you're in the replay mode. There is no doubt about it that you are in the replay mode. This is pretty much similar to normal. It will just show you the last couple of seconds of how you died and what the other person saw. And then following that, you will then go back into the cam phase, the camera phase. Now, I want to stress, this is not coming with North Star. However, it is going to be on the test server for us to be able to try. So after the replay mode, you can then go back onto your cameras, onto your drones, and you will be able to drive them around and control them. Now, I must stress that this you're only able to control your own stuff. So you can still flick through everything as you previously could, but if you have 2 drones out, then you can drive them around to continue to play and assist in the game. This also applies to people like Maestro, Echo, and Mozzie. They are all able to still control their gadgets after they are dead. Again, this is the test server only. That is not going to be coming to North Star in Year 6 Season 2. One other change to cameras is the fact that the bulletproof camera is getting a bit of a rework. This is going to be similar to Mirror and Maestro in the sense that you can now punch it and it will completely crack the glass rather than just outright destroying it. Further to this, you are now going to be able to actually turn the bulletproof camera. It's not going to be a static camera just looking forward. You're going to be able to physically turn it. This is going to be great for areas of like 90 on coastline, for example, where you're going to be able to look 2 different ways. And the other really, really interesting feature about this is it comes with an EMP, which is infinite. You get an infinite number of shots on this thing. And on top of that, it pretty much works like Echo. So the timer starts counting down. Every shot you do, or Twitch, it's like Twitch's drone. You take a shot, it takes a little time to reset, but there is a never-ending amount of EMP bursts. Now, the EMP bursts, they are so loud, it's unreal, but it is perfect for taking out things like drones. You're also going to be able to use it on operators to make their scope disappear, you know, their aiming reticle. So this is a really interesting change for the bulletproof cameras. One thing that we did kind of point out, though, is that all of these changes for breaking the glass from a single punch, defenders can do that as well. And the fact that defenders can do it as well kind of leads us to sort of thinking, well, you know, the Siege player base being what it is, there is the potential for toxicity here. If you're playing as Maestro and somebody doesn't like what you're doing, or you're playing as Mirror and they don't like the Mirror window, you know, they could open it, they could shoot it. Now they can punch it as well. So just some food for thought. And finally, Ash has lost one of her breaching rounds. Instead of 3, that has now gone down to 2. Whether it stays like that or not, I don't know, but it certainly looks like it's going to. Now, one of the final few changes I wanted to discuss today is the drone counter. Now, the drone counter appears at the top right of the screen. This is going to show the defenders exactly how many drones they have managed to take out during the round. This is something that I believe is lowering the skill gap, honestly. I kind of liked the fact that good teams and coordinated teams would count off how many drones they have shot out. So during the prep phase, if we got 4, we would let everybody know, you know, we've got 4 drones in total. And we would know then. You can then count off the remaining 6 drones as you catch them with Mozzie or, you know, mute and take them out. And then you know how much intel that the enemy team or the attacking team is going to have. This isn't the case anymore. Now it's kind of just presented to everybody. So, you know, everyone's going to have that info. But like I say, the skill gap is just continually getting squashed and decreased, which I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree with that personally. Now, the last major thing to discuss today is going to be the bodies. Now, when they first mentioned this, I thought straight away, I was making notes at the time and I was right, okay, the bodies are currently client-sided. So if they're trying to address issues that are presented by that, they're going to change it to server-sided. So I started writing down server-sided ? And then found out, no, that's not the direction they're going at all. So a very, very quick rundown here. If somebody dies as they're running, for example, the ragdoll of that body can fall in a certain way on one person's screen, but on someone else's, it can be completely different. So, you know, you may have shot someone inside of a room. However, on your opponent's screen, they were running forward and they've fallen and the character has blocked a doorway, for example. As you then crawl through and start peeking that doorway, on your screen, there's nothing there. On the enemy teams, there's a body there and suddenly you're shooting out through a body. It causes big headaches for pros especially. But rather than take these bodies server-sided because of whatever limitations they must have, the devs decided to go down a route which moves us even further away from the tactical game that Siege maybe once was. What they're doing now is the bodies will disappear after a couple of seconds and instead you get a giant logo show up pretty much on the floor where the body was. Quite how this alleviates certain issues, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if the weapon disappears. I don't think it does. But if Blitz falls down, I've had it a few times where his shield has blocked the door and I'm trying to shoot through and for other people that shield isn't there. If the weapon is still dropped and remains persistent, we're still going to potentially have this issue. So that's something to definitely consider. Other than the fact that I just really don't like the look of this and the way it acts, I just don't like it. I think it's horrendous, personally. You know, I bought this game thinking it was a tactical, immersive game, and we're just moving further and further into Overwatch territory every single friggin' day. But hey, it's their game. It's a competitive hero shooter now, so that's the direction they're going. Anyway, there may be a couple of other minor changes here or there, like wallpaper on Coastline, but I'll leave you to discover all of those yourself. Hopefully this provides you a bit of an insight into what is coming with the new season, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. If you enjoyed the video at all, please consider hitting the thumbs up. If you don't already, make sure to subscribe, and until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay reckless and relentless.